Hey guys, in this video, we'll try our best to do a small exercise for data modeling for DynamoDB. If you have been following my tutorial from past on data modeling on DynamoDB, we have modeled some complex scenarios such as LinkedIn post, likes, user. We did model a ticketing system. Here we want to do stocks. So, a user can create several watch lists. Each watch list will have many stocks. You can share, people can comment on the watch list, people can like the watch list, right? People can view the watch list, right? So all these important information, right? Let's try to model this scenario and see how we can do that in DynamoDB. This is a very first step or a first video where we are just doing a very simple design. And then as we progress, we might also build as a POC a small UI, right? But let's just get the first part, okay? So as you know, right, we do perform all the we perform this exercise from the past, right? I have an Excel spreadsheet where I write down all the entities, right? The first entity I would have is a user, right? User would have first name, last name, profile picture, etc. I would have a watch list, right? So for example, a user can have multiple watch lists, right? I can create multiple watch lists, right? Makes sense. So a watch list will have a watch list ID, will have a name, created date, modified date, and a watch list stats object, which I'll discuss shortly. I'm referencing the user here because a user can have many watch lists, right? It's a one to many, right? Now each watch list will have many symbol, right? A stock symbol, right? So observe what I'm doing. Here is the symbol ID, which I will discuss shortly, okay? This stock entity will have units, purchased price, or purchase date, right? Or when was that added? Again, totally depends upon the scenario. If you just want to create a system where people can add symbols and see the prices of that, that's great. But if you are developing a system where, let's say you're targeting popular investor where they can enter their symbol, their watch list, what in that watch list, what symbol they own, right? And what is the price at they bought and what is the quantity. So those are the information for that. But if you're simply developing a watch list system, then you might not need these attributes, okay? So now here I'm referencing the watch list ID and the user ID, and here I'm referencing the like entity. So I want to see how many people liked on a watch list, right? Who are the user who liked on that? Who are the people commented on the watch list? What is the comment? All of that scenarios, right? Then what we do is basically I try to write some of the access pattern, that the way in which we want to query the data. And here is sort of the first rudimentary design. Now, again, this is the first design, right? So we'll again modify, tweak this. So here is my PK. So we'll put this in red color. That means here I have a user object. Here I will have the detail about the user, like their name, this, that, etc., etc., etc. Right? Then let me just remove this. Looks like okay. Then I will have a watch list. So user can create a watch list and the watch list, right? So I'm saying watch list #1. Then I'm saying watch list #1 user #1, which means this watch list was made by user 1. I would put the title of the watch list, what the user may enter the title, when did the user created the watch list, right? And here in the GSI, I'll be referencing the user entity. Now I'll tell you why shortly. So I'll put this in dark color. So now I'm referencing the user and the watch list ID. Why? Now, because I can say for a given user, show me all the watch lists they have, or for a given watch list, show me all the user, right? On a watch list, right? Right. So that does that make sense? Hopefully, right? Now here comes the stock part. So stock #1, stock #2, stock #1, watch list 1, which means a watch list can have many stocks, right? So I'm adding that information. And again, this part, the yellow part, solely depends if you are developing or targeting. If you're developing a feature where investor can enter their quantity, what time they bought it, and what symbols they are. If you are simply developing a system that allows people to share the watch list, right, then then this information is not needed, because you'll simply add like the ticker, Apple, Tesla, TQQ, whatever that is, right? So in that scenario, I wouldn't be needing this, but I'm just adding it in case, okay? Now see how I'm modeling the stocks here, right? So I'm saying stock 1, which is in the watch list 1, and here I'm referencing the user and the watch list. So now through this GSI watch list, I can say, okay, give me all the stock that is there in the particular watch list, right? Or I can also say for a given user, give me all the watch list, and then I can say for all the watch list, fetch me all the stock. I could do all those access pattern here, right? Now the way I model symbol, if you observe here, this is a symbol, right? I don't want user to type in symbol, right? They can simply select from a drop down, and here is how I model my drop down. So again, this is gonna come from this website, NASDAQ official website that I'm about to show you. If I go to this website, here you will see list of 8,000 stock symbol in United States, 8,337. So there will be 8,337. So the user can only select from this. They can't reinvent a symbol, right? Unless and until so this is my one to many. A single symbol will have many tickers like Apple, this, that, blah, 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 right? So these are the items that the user can select here, right? So now for a given watch list, I can fetch all the stocks that is there on the watch list, right? Now people can like on the watch list as well. So for example, like #1 user 1, I'm referencing the user and watch list, which means for a given watch list, show me all the user who liked on that, right? And then I'm doing something amazing here. It's called a pre-compute design pattern, which means as soon as a watch list is created, what I'll be doing is I'll initialize all the stats to 0. Anytime a like happens, anytime a comment happens, anytime a view happens, what happens is I can simply increment the counter here. That way, when I go to the watch list, people can see the stats, 2,000 like, 300 comments, 90,000 views, right? So all that information in one go, right? I don't want to go through the entire list and do a count at runtime. So hence a pre-compute design pattern, right? So hopefully this makes sense, right? So now I can say for a given watch list. So my access pattern here in general is based on the watch list. I can fetch all the entities. So I can say for a watch list, fetch me all the stocks that are there in the watch list, right? I can fetch all the likes. Who are the people who did those likes? I can fetch the comments, right? And who are the people who made those comments, right? I can also fetch the stats here, right? In one single go, right? And I can also, if needed, since I know on a watch list, these are the people, let's say these are the people who liked on that, right? Now for this user, I can query my PK and I can get the user information like username, profile picture, and etc, etc, etc. And then you can nicely paginate across the results, right? So I hope this makes sense. I hope in general, this does make sense. And again, as I was explaining you, these items may be optional because maybe when you're creating a watch list, again, depends upon what you're building. If you need a feature where people can put in their price at which they bought, right, and also how many units they bought, you can enter that. Or if you're simply developing a system that can add symbols, right, and then you want to share across people, then these items would be optional, again depending upon your use cases. But hopefully this does make sense. This is how the data would look like. You would model your various access pattern using global secondary index, which allows you to query your data using a different primary key and a sort key. So for example, I can easily say, okay, you know what, for a watch list, fetch me all the stocks, right? Then I can say, okay, maybe filter out by units, or or perform sort by date, right? I could do all those expression, right, using my sort key. So I hope this makes sense. I hope in general this concept does make sense. What we will try to do is, again, now just a little bit like the users, again depends totally on what sort of system you're designing. Let's say you're using Cognito or any other third-party way to log in, right? So that way, whenever a user log in, you'll have a user ID, right? Then simply the user can start creating symbols. They can start creating they can start creating watch lists. They can start adding information. Now if you want to fetch the price and the dates, that's an API call that is not there in the Dynamo, right? So maybe you would have, and again, usually all these symbols and ticker are being updated at an interval, right? Let's say that's 1 minute or 2 minutes or 50 seconds or 30 seconds, depending upon the poll interval. So you will basically try to get the latest price from an API. Usually they have an API for symbols, so you can pass multiple symbol and fetch the data, right? So that is how you would do, right? So this, so for each price detail, like 52-week high, 52-week low, that would come from an API. So given a symbol, now you can make an API call for all the list of, objects or your symbols, and then you can fetch all the details and show it to the client or the user, right? So I hope this makes sense. This is a part one, just an overview. And again, we'll try to do a small demo with a lab as well in the upcoming videos. I hope you have enjoyed. If you did enjoy this video, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the upcoming next parts.